Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Preimesberger, editor of eWEEK. Thank you very much for joining us today for this latest edition of eWEEK eSpeaks. It's a video interview series with IT thought leaders that we do periodically on eWEEK and for the eWEEK YouTube channel. Our guest today is Lenley Hensarling, and Lenley is the Chief Strategy Officer and Vice President of Product Management for Aerospike, which does a very modern database and more than that. Lenley, welcome.
Good to be here with you, Chris.
Yeah, good to meet you and talk to you about the company. Tell me a little bit about your background.
So I started out as a programmer, and I've had engineering management positions and business positions in the software industry for quite some time. Most recently, I ran product management at Enterprise DB and have known John Dillon, the CEO here, for a number of years, and he talked me into coming over to Aerospike, and it was attractive to me because, two things. One, they have real technology, or we have real technology, and I think that real time is becoming a mandatory thing that companies have to be able to prosecute to do business. Customers' expectations are, that things are all real time now, and that puts incredible demands on databases. And so I decided to join up, and we've been cranking along here. We recently, last year, towards the end of the year, raised another round of money and are putting that to good use and expanding the business.
Very good. And tell me what Aerospike does. It's a database, but it's more than that.
Yeah, we're a NoSQL database, but we sort of operate at the intersection of hyperscale and the requirement for very low latency and very high throughput, so high performance. Okay. And we do that because we're different, I would say. We have a different clustering model where we can go one hop to get to the data from the client. We scale up as well as scale out, and we're strongly consistent, which is not what you usually hear about NoSQL databases that are distributed. So we have passed the Jepson test for strongly consistent transactions, and we do a lot of that as well as just fast data lookup.
Okay, speed is everything. There's no question about it. There's no substitute for speed and efficiency, and that's what you guys do. Do you consider Aerospike a second or third generation type database? Because you're using a lot of the technology. You looked at a lot of the technology that's been there in the market for years, and then done it one better or two better, haven't you?
Yes, we like to think of ourselves as the next generation NoSQL database, and we used another generation of algorithms with our technology. We also try and be lockstep with the hardware providers. So, we're a deep system software company, if you will. So we take full advantage of, progression in the chip technology, progression in network technology, and work closely with Intel and others to make sure that we're hyper efficient, if you will, because that's what's required for the low latency, but it also gives our customers a total cost of ownership benefit too, because we're very efficient in terms of what we do. So we can process, many, many thousands of transactions per second, and we can support data sizes up to petabytes of data on less hardware and less footprint.
So I guess it would be logical to think that most of your customers would be customers in like fintech business or perhaps scientific or military and government. Would that be a fair statement, since you are able to process so fast?
Yeah, absolutely. We started out in ad tech and still have a number of notable customers. You'll probably know the Trade Desk, right?
Yeah.
And
down in Ventura, aren't they?
Exactly.
I know exactly where they are. Yeah.
Exactly. So the trade desk, is a great example of one of our ad tech customers, but that business really shaped our capabilities because they have to be able to decide things in milliseconds. And they have to use as much data as they can to get as an accurate recommendation for a bid on an ad. That led us into supporting recommendation engines and then into fraud in the fintech space. So, being able to support what I would call frictionless fraud detection so that you typically have 20 to 40 milliseconds to actually process all the data and make a recommendation. One of our customers in that space, basically told us that the difference with Aerospike is that they can use weeks and weeks of data on the incoming side to establish a pattern for a device or a person and the behavior associated with it, and then process it against months and months and months of data, where before they used hours of data and weeks of data. And that leads to more accurate decisions about fraud and fewer false positives, as well as catching the things that are truly fraud.
Right. So agility is a huge descriptor of what you guys do. Tell me, Lenley, about the importance of the open source community in Aerospike's makeup. As we discussed earlier offline, that we're both kind of from the open source area, and we both really respect and admire what's happened and what's been innovated in the open source community. How does Aerospike rely on open source to do its job?
Yeah, so where we intersect with our open source community is primarily on the client side, expanding there and the use there. Because of the sort of deep technical nature of what we do, the core that we provide is really done by a very tight group of programmers that we've had the benefit of keeping together for the last 10, 11 years. I guess about 11 years old now, and many of the programmers have been here for 8, 9 years. We still have the founder, Srini Srinivasan, who is a deep database expert and a guiding person for our technology as well.
Great. Can you? We have just a couple minutes left, Lenley. Can you maybe describe a trend that you're seeing in your sector of IT that maybe my readers, who are very seasoned, generally very seasoned IT people, would like to know about?
Yeah, I'll tell you something that we've seen increasingly is that customers are becoming more sophisticated about the cloud. It's not just, I'm going to go to a cloud vendor. They actually select cloud vendors for specific workloads where the fit is better. They're also doing things like what I call, super high availability, right? Where they'll actually have workloads split across cloud vendors or split across, private cloud and, a cloud vendor of their choice. And they do that because just as, we used to say, let's have an ATT and a Verizon fiber into the data center because you don't want one to go down and not be able to get to your customers, right? Now people are looking for that ability to really support always on, and always on has become mandatory now. So we find ourselves working with multiple cloud vendors and customers who have workloads split across multiple cloud vendors. And they do that for, cost reasons, but also for availability reasons.
When I travel, sometimes I have a bunch of different phones because I review phones for eWEEK and other devices, but sometimes I'll carry an AT&T iPhone, a Verizon Samsung Galaxy, and I also have a Google Fi phone that they gave me. So I've got 3 different telcos. So wherever I go in the country, I'm probably going to be covered. So it's kind of like the same theory, isn't it?
It is.
Lenley, it's Lenley Hensarling. Thank you so much for your time today. You're the Chief Strategy Officer and Vice President of Product Management at Aerospike. Thank you very much for bringing your expertise and your explanation of the company here today.
It's been great, Chris. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks very much. And for everybody following along all the way to the end here today, thank you very much and have a great rest of your eWeek. Thanks for joining us on eWEEK eSpeaks. Go to eWEEK.com to hear more conversations with IT thought leaders.